Welcome back to the Spy X Family Comparison Series, now on episode 9, which covers chapters 13 and 14 from the manga. Just like last week, there's a ton of pages this episode has to adapt, so right after a 10-second recap of how we got in this interesting situation, we'll start off the adaptation at the beginning of chapter 13 as Yor tries to accept that Loid's about to steal her first kiss. It looks like it's a bit too much for her to handle though, so instead she downs something else she can't handle very well to hopefully negate the feelings that she's having. That Hungarian wine really works wonders, but remember kids, alcohol is never the answer. You could end up being the next person to almost kill someone with a fork. In the anime, it even looks like Yuri had to dodge that attack unless he wanted more than just a scratch on his face. Relax, Yuri, you're about to get what you've been asking for this whole time. And what a perfect time to get cliffhangered yet again. Thanks for that, Wood Studio. But now that the opening's over, we can finally see how this will play out. Just kidding, it's a flashback, because of course watching Yor kiss another man would cause Yuri to remember his childhood and how he wanted to marry Yor back then. Yeah, let's not talk too much about that. Instead, let's talk about how the anime mixed up Yuri's jump back into reality with some fresh salt in his wound. It's too late to jump in now, Yuri. Interfering at this point will only bring more harm to yourself, since Yor was never gonna go through with this in the first place. She's just too embarrassed. Not that she says that in the anime while throwing a strike that would put most slap boxers to shame. If there's anything that deserves a slow-mo shot, it would probably be this. The whole sequence has this very faint strobe light effect that's just prevalent enough to add impact to the scene without causing seizures, as all the actual movement in this cut is done on threes. While it's interesting how Loid's post-dodge movements are the only ones that are using frame blending techniques, I think what's more interesting is these camera angles. They really wanted to get this slap in as many perspectives as possible before Yor sends her brother into the Shadow Realm. We don't quite get to follow Yuri all the way to his destination like we can in the manga, but maybe that's because the destination itself has been changed from some random bookshelves to the anime-only roses that he brought in earlier. Not that the impact wouldn't cause some books to fall, as that's still strong enough for Anya to feel the rumbling being initiated. Truly an end-of-the-world event, but in the manga at least, she doesn't say this, as once again all mentions of nuclear warfare were taken out here. Not that she cares either way, as she goes right back to bed while a nearly dead Yuri pops back up from his death sentence. As it turns out, Yor nearly killing her brother was well worth it, as it causes Yuri to come to the incorrect conclusion about how much Loid and Yor love each other. Exactly what they both wanted to hear, but drunk Yuri really should be more careful about what he says around drunk Yor, otherwise he might not survive a third flyby. The Breyer family may be pretty eccentric, but at least they're built to last. And even if they weren't, it's nice that they're always there to support each other when they're about to fall over. Lucky for you guys, now you have a third person that'll keep you from falling over. It may be hard to read Loid at times, but I think it's safe to say that he truly does appreciate the familial devotion these two have, and that appreciation shows especially to Yuri. Not that he would ever admit as much as he starts to storm out of the building. It's a good thing this man isn't planning on driving home, because with that anime-only thud he did into the wall, it's easy to tell that he'll be having some issues just getting to the train station. So while Yuri's figuring that out, Yor has a lot of cleaning to do as Loid looks for potential wiretaps. Can't be too careful after all. Yuri was acting pretty crazy tonight, and while Yor says in the manga alone that he doesn't normally act like that, his actions brought forth a worthwhile experience for everyone. Everyone besides Anya, that is, who now wants her dad to save Earth instead of disarming a bomb. Yor certainly fell asleep fast, but Loid decided to take some more time to process the evening while reading some more Spy Wars. Looks like he really was envious of the relationship Yor and Yuri had. Makes you wonder what exactly his past was like before the whole spy thing. But that's a story for another day, because now we'll move right along into the next day on the next chapter. Anya really slept like a log last night, and she's so groggy that she confuses her dad with a plant. She doesn't even remember what she was so excited to stay up for last night, much to the shock of Yor, who's already combing her hair in the anime. Seems like Anya was a step behind her mother this time around, because by the time Anya finally makes it to the living room, Yor has been moved to the sink, and Loid is already eating some of that suspicious food his wife prepared. Lucky for Anya though, Loid is still having the same thoughts in his head, so she can realize just how much it is that she missed last night. An incredibly disappointing realization for her, even if she has no idea what the secret police are. It's after this that they all sit down together to eat, and Loid starts to run through some suspicions he's having about Yor. Suspicions that are a tad shorter than the manga, but house all the same information Anya needed to be concerned. So much so, she almost slipped up by revealing some hidden information, but thankfully she switched the topic to Yor's bad cooking. What a terrible thing to leave Yor with before Loid tells them to start getting ready. Something he doesn't say in the anime, nor do we see the TV broadcast broadcast afterwards, instead going right to the part of Yor getting ready to depart and Loid getting ready to plant a bug on her. It might seem unfair to secretly treat her with such tactics, but given Loid's profession, it's perfectly understandable. One slip-up could lead to another war after all, so he has no choice but to put his moral obligations aside for this matter. It's not like he enjoys what he's doing, and that at least is clear to Yor, who notices Loid's more distant behavior. She's under the impression though that Loid's upset with her for not being a good enough wife, and those worries further manifest a bridge between the two. It may be a small bridge, but it's just big enough for Anya to pick up on it regardless. Even without her Esper prowess, kids can be uncannily good at reading the room at times. But we'll hold off on that little spat for now as we move back to Yuri, who thankfully made it home alive last night. So now that he's back at work, he gets the chance to talk about his experience with his smoky friend here. A friend that now sits down to watch Yuri do some more bodily harm to himself before just telling him to accept the marriage and get on with it. Something he doesn't say in the anime, but really this guy just wants Yuri to shift his focus to Twilight. Little does he know that Yuri's obsession for his sister might just be what brings Twilight down one day. And that sister is currently sulking her way through work at City Hall right now. She really could use someone to talk to, and that's exactly why she waits for someone like Sharon to enter the building, the only girl she knows that's also married. Not that she or the other girls offer any actual help while Loid listens in from a nearby rooftop. As a matter of fact, what these girls have to say is so unimportant that most of it was removed from the anime. And thank God for that, because most of it's just passive-aggressive criticism. These three certainly aren't the most tactful people in the world, and I'm glad Loid sees that now. Yor really deserves to be treated better, but unfortunately that's not going to happen even after she gets intercepted at the post office by Yuri's smoky friend from earlier. Just kidding, it's Loid and Frankie. While Loid shows some pretty good disguises, these two could definitely be a little more discreet, which they kinda are in the anime, as instead of whispering to each other right in front of Yor, these lines of theirs are reserved for an anime-only flashback of them getting ready to question her. Maybe it's just my imagination, but I swear Frankie grew an inch when he adopted the role of Lieutenant Mop. He really seems to be enjoying this little speck of power he's been given, and gets pretty carried away with that little torture story he was telling Yor. Graciously, he did leave out the part of the other fake suspect cutting out his tongue in the anime. Still a pretty excessive story, but it's all just to coerce Yor into exercising any get-out-of-jail-free card that she might have available. If she doesn't have one to play, then that's all the proof Twilight needs to trust her again. And thankfully, that's exactly what he's about to get, as Yor doubles down on her innocence with no suspicious hands to play. Except the ones she used to have Frankie eat concrete. I love the three-piece motion Wit Studio incorporated into this cut. It's so slick. Sorry Frankie, but not even your anime-only gloves can help you out here. You've barked more than you can chew. And with that takedown, this operation is officially a wrap, as Frankie limps away with one removed line, and Yor gets ready to defend her family in the only way she knows how. Good thing she didn't do this in front of actual SSS agents, because they probably wouldn't try to throw this whole event under the rug like Loid and Frankie do. It was quite the ordeal they put her through, yet they don't even really say sorry to her like they do in the manga, nor do we get that extra little criticism from Frankie. Everything Frankie says to Loid after Yor leaves, though, is intact, even if Loid is a little quieter than usual when he takes off his mask. This serves as a greater giveaway to Frankie that Loid feels bad for what he just had to do. After all, Frankie is probably one of the only few people that can actually read Loid's stoicism in times like this. Everyone has a part to play in life, and it's not always an act that we want to perform or are even good at to begin with, but it still needs to be done, and Twilight knows that, so when Loid meets up with Yor again, he imparts some of that knowledge to her. Yor wants to play the part of a flawless mother and wife, which is highly admirable, but also completely impossible. She instead needs to use her individual strengths to overshine her role. It's great advice, and to some degree it almost seems like he's telling himself that. Loid doesn't really have much of a choice on the matter, but he's still really hard on his execution of his husband role because, well, he's grown attached to Yor. It may be pretty hard to tell, but in moments like this, when his spy role conflicts with his husband role, that's when we see Twilight and Loid start to butt heads, and we see the man for who he really is. A man who's incredibly kind like his wife and extremely thankful like his daughter. And well, that brings an end to this episode. This episode was a pretty standard one, but next week we're gonna have a hell of a dodgeball episode to cover, so stay tuned for that. But if you guys enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to give the video a like and share it with a friend, and subscribe with the bell on to get notified about more anime comparison videos like this one. Also, I'll likely be adding some new Patreon tiers soon, so keep an eye out for that. Well, that's it for me. As always, I hope you all have a fantastic day. This is Registry, signing off.